This is a big time. When I mean big time, I mean literally big. 6'6", 330 pounds. Plays left guard. He says as well that he is expected to take an official visit at some point in the summer as well.
Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Jerry Hamilton, CJ Vogel, and Hank South. Time for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. Got a lot of ground to cover, Jerry, but before we do it, let's give a shout-out to our long-running sponsor here on the Recruiting Breakdown and talk a little bit about Mark Saunders.
You know who covers all your insurance ground? That's Mark Saunders. He can protect everything from your home, car, boat, to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. If you're in the Austin or Round Rock area, the entire state of Texas, he's the only insurance agent you'll need. Give Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office a call today at 512-218-8571. On Texas Football, guarantee you'll be in great hands with the more than 35 years of experience of Texas alum and Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders. Again, give him a call today, 512-218-8571.
Jerry, we'll start this week in the I-10 corridor because an offensive line prospect has a decision coming up on Friday.
We're headed to Columbus, and it's not to Schobel's Restaurant. Keon Hempill Woods, one of the top offensive line prospects on the board in the state of Texas, will announce his decision Friday at 6 p.m. at Columbus High. He is a guy that Texas offered in early March. They've had him on campus twice, including last Friday for the first scrimmage. And Texas made up some ground there. You know, he has a number of offers. He picked up 12 Power 4 offers. He's been a real riser since the end of his junior season in 2025. He's picked up 12 Power 4 offers since that point, including 7 SEC schools. So, I mean, you're talking about Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Florida, you name it. They've all come in. Tennessee have all come in and offered Keon Hempill Woods. It's boiling down to closer to home decision. I think there's a lot of familiarity and liking of the Texas program with Hempill Woods. I think that Kyle Flood has done a really good job in that recruitment. We'll see which way it goes. A&M, again, is very much in that as well. But Keon Hempill Woods, 6'3", 275, 280 pounds, will be announcing his decision Friday. The key with him is how good of an athlete he is. He started his high school career as more of a defensive lineman. He's played offensive line. They won the state championship 2 years ago playing for Coach Schobel at Columbus and with a couple of the Schobel boys over there. But he is a very powerful, very athletic, very aggressive 280-pounder. His frame upside is probably about 310 pounds, but it's that combination of athleticism and physicality and that ability to strike with his hands and play low with leverage that makes him so attractive to all the SEC programs that have offered him.
CJ, the only thing that might be more popular on this channel than talking about offensive line prospects, talking about 5-star prospects. And a 5-star receiver is very much on the radar for Texas in the class of 2027.
Yeah, you got to go all the way up to Indiana. How about Lawrence North High School, Indianapolis? Manson Sales, the number 1 wide receiver in the entire country for the 2027 class. He was offered last night by the Texas Longhorns, his 40th offer. So to give you a little bit of perspective, Texas is fighting from behind a little bit, but Jerry's heard it. I've heard it over the last week and a half. Manson actually told me he's had conversations with Texas, hoping to get on campus at some point. I don't believe a scheduled visit has been set in stone at the moment, but there's interest from both sides. Obviously, that offer has been extended. Manson is reciprocating that at the moment as well. But look, 6'5", 195 pounds. He is fluid. He is versatile. He is a big play waiting to happen. And it tells you something that Texas is continuing the big game hunt if they're going after the number 1 wide receiver in the class on April 7th. So we'll monitor that. Of course, I know there are going to be questions about Easton Royal as well. He's continuing to take visits to LSU, Tennessee, Florida. Still firm to Texas. We'll have to see, of course, what divulges between both receivers. But at the very least, there's interest between Sales and Texas. And a visit at some point later this spring, we'll see.
Hank, let's go to the class of 2028 and switch gears to the running back position. You've done a lot of reporting over on TexasFootball.com in the last week or so about Micah Rhodess, one of the top running back prospects in the 2028 class. What's the latest there?
Yeah, so he's had quite the active start to 2026. He committed to Oklahoma back in January. Obviously, Oklahoma made had some shuffling of the running back coach position. DeMarco Murray went to I believe the Chiefs, right? Somewhere in the NFL. And he has since decommitted from Oklahoma. In the time he was committed to the Sooners, he visited Texas twice. So obviously, if you're looking at that as an OU fan, probably not very comfortable seeing one of your top commitments at your rival campus. Obviously, Micah Rhodess has connections to Texas. His grandfather, Bobby Rhodes, played linebacker for the Longhorns in the '80s, and his grandmother also went to Texas as well. And then his uncle, I believe, is a record-breaking receiver at Boise State. I think Jerry could correct me on that if I'm wrong there. But so he's got some athletic ties to Texas. Spoke to him after he decommitted from Oklahoma. He has set another visit to Texas for April 18th, the fan day open practice situation. The old recruiting adage is follow the visits. Probably not as much anymore. You can look at that, but I think in this scenario you can. I feel like the only school he has visited this spring so far is Texas. This will make his third trip next week when he gets back on campus. He talked about wanting to visit Georgia in mid-May. He wants to see, I believe he said Nebraska and Ohio State as well. I'm sure others will be mixed in there as well. But it sounds like Texas is setting the pace in this recruitment. I think he really likes Jabbar Jalouk. He was, I spoke to him last week. He said he thinks Derek Cooper is going to be the starter. He says you can see the development in real time when you're at practice watching these guys go through the work. He's already seen 2 of the practices. So it sounds like Texas is trending in the right direction here for Micah Rhodess in 2028. Obviously, it's a long time away, from actual signing day. But it sounds like he likes what he's hearing. He said he feels like a priority from this Texas staff, and that looks to be paying off now that he's going to get back to campus here on April 18th.
Jerry, let's look at visitors coming up this weekend. Texas is going to have a scrimmage on Saturday. That'll be 1 week out from the spring game, and obviously when the spring game gets here, we'll talk about spring game visitors. But when you look at the guys that are scheduled to be on campus, some of those key visitors this weekend, Texas has some guys from the Southeast that you saw on your travels through that part of the country. What's top of mind for you, Jerry, this weekend?
Well, the interesting thing on Monday was Keon Hall from Dothan, Alabama, who committed to Oregon. He's second on this list. I went to see Keon Hall a few weeks ago at Dothan, and he committed to Oregon yesterday. And I let it cool for a couple hours, and I texted him, and I asked the 6 foot, 195-pound DB, and I think this guy's a near 5-star prospect. I think he's tremendous, by the way. I asked him, I said, hey, have you canceled all your visits? He said, no, sir. And I said, well, are you still going to Texas this weekend? He said, yes, sir. So nothing has changed. He committed to Oregon. He's still planning on making his unofficial visit with his parents to Texas this weekend. The key there with Keon Hall and then Jernard Albright and Jabarius Gare, who I saw all those guys on the same trip a few weeks ago. This will be their first unofficial visits to Texas during this recruiting process. None of the 3 have seen the Texas campus before, been around the university before. Somebody may have been to Austin before. I don't think Hall has. I don't think Albright has either. But Jabarius Gare has been on campus at A&M back during the season, so he's at least been in the state. But all 3 of those guys, this will be their first ever visits to the University of Texas. So Texas has a real shot to do some work and really gain traction in those recruitments. Now, Jabarius Gare already has his official visit scheduled for June 12th through 14th. Jernard Albright, who I think is a big-time safety, defensive back prospect, just a lead athlete. In Hall, they don't have OVs set yet to Texas, and that was part of the plan here for Texas to get these guys on campus and try to secure visits, because Jernard Albright's committed to South Carolina, has Miami, Florida, a number of other schools closer to home going after him. So I think Texas wants to get those guys on campus, Hall and Albright, and see if it's worth their time to get an OV, and if Texas feels like they can get an OV out of those guys, and where they're kind of that recruitment would mesh after first unofficial visits. And then, guys, Hank, Ismail Kamara. He was scheduled to be in last week. He's scheduled to be in. They rescheduled that. He went to A&M, I think, last Friday, and now he's coming to Texas Saturday. It's a big visit. He's one of the top 2 tackles on the board from in-state for the Longhorns.
Yeah, you said it. It goes Brian Swanson, Ismail Kamara. That's kind of, those are your prize offensive line targets in this class, and in a class that, maybe, it's going to, at some point, it is going to become a numbers game, because they're in on a lot of guys. And, at some point, these spots are going to fill up. So, but no, Brian Swanson, Kamara on campus this weekend. Swanson was on campus March 28th for his visit. But, right now, probably Texas A&M for Kamara. I know LSU has come into the mix a little bit more of late. Oregon, I think SMU he has on his list as well. But Texas has that June 12th through 14th was OV weekend locked up, and seems to be pushing all the right buttons in this recruitment. I don't think it's going to be settled anytime soon. I think he's going to go through the process and take his OVs, but getting him on campus as many times as you can, especially when he does go to A&M, you reschedule for this weekend, making sure he gets in and kind of sees the practice setting for the first time this spring. That'll be big. Obviously he's very familiar with Texas. He camped last summer. I believe he has. He tweeted Curtis Brown when he got his offer as well from Gilmer. So he has a lot of interest in Texas and familiarity with Texas. So they should only be able to kind of expand on that this weekend, and then of course in his summer OV.
CJ, anything else to add on the guys scheduled to be on campus this weekend?
Yeah, well, Kamara's certainly a big one to know. It's going to be interesting. Aronson Randall out of Huff, North Carolina. Look, I don't think we've talked about him enough, right? He was a guy that Texas offered and immediately had interest in visiting. He'll be on campus this weekend. He was expected about 2 weeks ago and had to reschedule. But now that he's in the boat, especially when Jaden Nelson out of the Houston area has committed to Texas Tech, does he start to then rise up the Texas board? We're going to have to wait and see after this visit, but ultimately really talented prospect from the East Coast. I'm really eager to see kind of how things move in his direction after this visit, where things fall on the official visit board as well. But he's a talented prospect that we need to mention, as is Taylon Mayo, who, look, he released, I believe, a top 5 cornerback out of Louisville, released a top 5. I was actually a little surprised to see Texas in the mix for his top 5, but now that he's on campus, now that he's got an official visit set up as well, it's going to be interesting to see what comes of that. Of course, Texas has a very, very talented cornerback board at the moment as well.
All right, guys, get your final thoughts, closing takes ready, because we'll get to those right after Jerry tells us one more time about our good friend, our long-running sponsor here on the Recruiting Breakdown, Mark Saunders.
All your insurance needs, whether you live in Austin or Round Rock area or in the entire state of Texas, Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders, who's also a Texas alum, should be your call. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV can cover it all for you. Call his office today. Mark Saunders' number, 512-218-8571. Who would you trust? Somebody with more than 35 years of experience. That's who you trust. Give Mark Saunders, again, Texas alum, a call today, 512-218-8571.
All right, guys, final thoughts, final takeaways, anything top of mind for you? Hank, you're up first.
Yeah, I just, got to mention Samaj Stanford. He's a 4-star safety from Oklahoma, part of just a loaded high school class in the state of Oklahoma that Texas is trying to dip into. Starts with a guy like Samaj Stanford, certainly, from Broken Arrow. I mean, this kid is like a Will Muschamp defensive back. If you talk about kind of playing the ball in the air, I know that was a big point of emphasis that Sark was talking about today at his press conference, but 109 tackles last season, 5 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, 2 forced fumbles, 2 blocked kicks, added 700 yards on offense and 11 touchdowns. So the guy's all over the field, both sides of the ball. He has a top 3 of Texas, Georgia, and Oregon, and he is announcing a decision on April 23rd. So this is one Texas would love to get on board early in this class and help kind of build a momentum going into the summer. I think Texas is you got to feel pretty good about your chances there at this point in time, especially if you're looking at the other contenders. Oregon, Georgia. He doesn't have Oklahoma in that top group. That's probably the one you would be sweating about the most if he did. But this is a guy Texas wants to add and is working to do so on April 23rd when he announces his decision. And that's Samaj Stanford, the 4-star safety from Broken Arrow.
Players like that need to start listing how many calf cramps they had during a season too.
All right, good stuff, Hank. CJ, what you got?
Yeah, 2 guys that visited campus this past week are now set up to officially visit in the summer. And that's kind of how we've seen things go for guys that maybe took a while to earn their offer. The first, Micah Allen, the linebacker at Don Bosco Prep in New Jersey, on campus last Thursday, got to take in his first trip to Austin. Told on Texas Football that he's expected to put in an official visit in Stone this summer. That'll come in the next week or two for the Longhorn. 6'2", 225 talented prospect. Visited Florida State this afternoon as well. And then I needed to mention Abdus Kone out of North Shore as well. This is a big time. When I mean big time, I mean literally big. 6'6", 330 pounds. Plays left guard for North Shore as well. But he moves well. Again, a number of guys on this Texas offensive line picture at the moment. He's another one to mention. He visited campus for the scrimmage on Friday for his first visit. He says as well that he is expected to take an official visit at some point in the summer as well.
All right, Jerry, you got the last word. I don't know if you got any football, but I know the men's and women's hoops portal opened at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, and things are just getting cooking on the
it feels like football recruiting's calm right now. We're going to get to what's not calm. Basketball portal recruiting, wow, it's the opposite of calm. Prices are sky high. Extremely sky high in the men's game. I mean, we're talking about multiple guys seeking $4 to $5 million, so have fun with that. But Texas, look, we expect some announcements to come out soon for Texas players that are going to announce they're staying or leaving, right? And we still continue to feel good about Matas returning, although, look, there's some big – it might surprise some people who don't think Matas is a legitimate NBA prospect. The college coaches do. There's a number of blue bloods and Tier 1, I call them NIL programs, that have been trying to knock on the door and get the kid in the portal. I think Matas prefers to be at Texas, but there's some big numbers being thrown around on the portal right now. We feel good about Cam Heide, unless he gets a offer that he thinks is better, but I think he likes it at Texas. And I think he's a guy that understands being a role player. And I think that's very valuable when all these guys who are going in the portal are making really big NIL demands, and a lot are making starting demands. So that factors into all this for the Texas staff and GM Chris Ogden when they're talking to all these agents and players and whatnot. Now the portal is open. And I think we feel good about John Clark coming back. He redshirted last year. Texas really liked what they saw and what he can become as a player, and I think he could help in a role next year as a rebounder in physical presence, because I think that's where he's at now with the developing offensive game. Then Louis Obior, the 7'1" big man out of London. I think he was hurt initially at the start of the season, although he was going to redshirt when he signed. He started to come on after he got on the practice court late in the season. So I think Texas still sees some real development opportunity for him. And there aren't many 7'1" guys rolling around, walking around. So that I think that's important to maybe they're thinking to continue to develop him. Guys we don't think will return right now is Nick Cody, Simeon Wilcher, and Declan Drew. So you have 4 high school guys coming in. Of course, I just want to caveat, anything can change, but that's what we expect. You have 4 high school guys coming in, and obviously they need a team runner, point guard, combo guard, whatever is the best fit for them coming in. And then they need a 4-man who's a legitimate starter and legitimate high-minute player. And then I think the backups will be at center and another guard for depth. So then it gets to Dalen Swain. I expect him to enter the NBA draft, maintain his eligibility, go through the process, see what happens. I do think there's a chance Texas could take that extra guy out of the portal if they feel like that's going to head the NBA direction as he goes down through this process. So we'll see where that goes for Dalen Swain, and we'll see when he announces that. If he announces that he's going to the NBA draft and maintaining his eligibility, the combine is May 10th through 17th. The last day to pull your name out of the draft is going to be the 27th or 28th. The women lost a couple of key players. We'll see how many others go to the portal. Obviously, Vic Schaefer, Sean Miller will be bringing portal players in starting this weekend. The dead period ends on the 9th. April 10th, Friday, you'll start to see guys on campus. I expect the men to bring in at least 3 visitors here this weekend for sure. We'll see if that number grows. On the women's side, we have not heard any numbers on official visits, but portal runs April 7th through April 21st. Put your seatbelt on, hold on to the handles, and get ready. It's going to be wild with the men, especially with what they're commanding right now on the market.
Absolutely. All right, Jerry, CJ, Hank, thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. If you're not a member over at ontexasfootball.com, anytime we get recruiting news, notes, or nuggets, that's where we're dropping it first. Get over to the site right now. Take advantage of our spring sale. Use the promo code OTFOG when you sign up, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for just $39.95. Make sure that you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whenever we drop a video or go live, you're not missing any of our Longhorn coverage or breaking news. For Jerry, for CJ, for Hank, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, hook 'em.
Hey guys, Blake Monroe here from Coffee and Football. YouTube thinks that you're going to like this video right here, and if the algorithm knows ball, it's a good one. So go check it out, and then don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button.